What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's installment of DappRadar Meets. If you've missed any of the previous shows, we've got you. Don't worry. They're all on the YouTube channel. Just search DappRadar over on YouTube. You'll find everything. So, for those of you that haven't joined us in the past, every week I sit down with the guys from leading blockchain games, NFT projects, DeFi dApps, and I really kind of dig in to get a better idea of what's in store for the project. Really, most importantly, to give the community, you guys, a chance to ask all the difficult questions. That's not to say that I don't also ask some difficult questions. As always, when you ask your questions, we offer up $100 worth of USDT. We share that out amongst the best 10 questions. So don't be shy. There's no such thing as silly questions unless you ask them 3 times. So brings me on to what's happening today. Today, we've got a really special guest with us, and I'm really excited to introduce him to you guys. He's the growth lead at the leading play-to-earn game, which is Axie Infinity. He's here to chat with us about their journey so far, the launch of Ronin, and what the future looks like for the leading play-to-earn game. Myself and the guys at DappRadar, we know Axie Infinity really well. We've watched them, we've analyzed them, and we've reported on them over the years as it's progressed from being quite a small-time blockchain game after releasing its community alpha back in 2019, I believe. And just to throw some numbers out there, just to give some pure shock, Axie Infinity NFTs are the top-selling NFTs as tracked by DappRadar. In their lifetime to date, they've accumulated 3.49 billion in sales volume, over 1.2 million traders, and 10 million NFT sales. Just to put that into a bit of a comparison, CryptoPunk sales volume over the same time frame is 2.2 billion. Whereas the leading NFT marketplace, OpenSea, racked up 11.6 billion. Bear in mind that OpenSea hosts thousands and thousands of NFTs, and the Axie marketplace is completely dedicated to NFTs. So this year, at one point, the Axie marketplace actually overtook OpenSea in regards to NFT sales volume. What we're seeing now is billions being drained out of Ethereum via Ronin and Katana, and Axie has pretty much become the unicorn that blockchain needed. Moreover, we've observed this kind of shift in this play-to-earn category. It's really captured the imaginations of millions of people, especially those where monthly incomes are really low. In many ways, Axie has embodied what blockchain, I think, originally set out to do, is put power back into the hands of many, level the financial playing field, give people with the internet, a mobile device, the opportunity to make some money. For that reason, I hold the game, its devs, and the ideas it's made a reality in very high regard. So while politicians were talking, these guys seem to have acted. So Jeff, hello. I hope I did you some justice there in the intro.
Thanks. It seemed like you couldn't hear me. No, thanks for the introduction. That was awesome. I'm super excited to be here.
Wicked, man. I mean, I just hope I did you a bit of justice. I think it's kind of safe to say that a lot of the people here are going to know about Axie Infinity, but I don't like to make any assumptions generally. So I always ask my guests to imagine that they've been trapped inside an elevator with me. You've got 2 minutes to hit me with your best pitch. So why should I? Imagine I'm a VC, Jeff. Not that you need me, but you know. So why should I and everyone in this AMA be excited about Axie? Hit me with your best pitch.
Sure. I mean, so Axie was built to introduce the entire world to crypto. It's relatable. It's fun. It's a way to kind of get down the crypto rabbit hole in a way that's fun and accessible and nostalgic, right? Axies are pets that you can battle, you can collect, and you can actually use them to earn tokens with real value. There are people in many different countries that are actually earning a living by playing Axie, and yeah, they're proving moms wrong everywhere, right? Gaming is finally good for your career. And yeah, that's something that's happening with Axie. Axie is right behind the economics, behind the tech. Axie is an incredible community of thinkers and dreamers. There's so much art that comes out. Right, there are tournaments, esports teams, there are guilds, there are thousands of guilds within the Axie ecosystem. So it's also a place to make friends. So yeah, that's what I like about Axie, at least.
Nailed it, Jeff. Nailed it. No, I think you summed it up really, really well there. And I think the first thing you said is really important as well, that introduction to crypto. That's something that I really agree with you with. And we've seen it more and more this year that sort of when you gamify things, when you dress them up visually, people have had a much easier on-ramp, right? Like just psychologically, it seems to have helped put some visuals onto this crypto world so people get it. Is that something you've seen, right?
Yeah, so 50% of our users have never used crypto before. So we're really getting it into the hands of the people who need it the most. And yeah, it's amazing. There are grandmas that are playing. They're just people that you would never expect to be crypto users are getting into the ecosystem, having a lot of fun, and reaping the benefits of this new technology. So we think it's really important. We think it's a revolution. It's way more than a game. And yeah, thank you. DappRadar has helped us a lot on this journey, right? You guys are running a Ronin validator. Even in the early days, I met Skirmantas actually in
Oh,
2018
right.
at the first NFT gaming conference. It was called Blockchain Gaming back then. I guess some people
Yeah,
might
man.
still call it that. So yeah, but DappRadar has been with us almost basically every step of the way. I remember I used to refresh DappRadar on a daily basis, watching our growth. Right, it was like, okay, I remember the first day the Axie Marketplace opened, we had 29 daily active users on the marketplace and on DappRadar, and I was ecstatic. I was like, we were the number two or number three project with
Just
29 users. So yeah.
crazy. That's such a nice thing to hear, Jeff. Like, because it's this kind of similar to what I said. I've literally been watching you guys for years now. So whereas some people may have found out about Axie in the last 12 months, we've kind of really, yeah, like you said rightly, this journey's been like not hand in hand, but we've watched you and you guys have watched us, and it's been great, really. And I think, am I right in saying that now more than ever, we're in a really good place, man? Like a really good place. Am I getting too excited?
Well, there's definitely a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to look forward to. But we have to keep pushing. It's really important that we don't, say, okay, like we've done well and now we can kind of take our foot off the gas pedal. It's important for us as a team, as a community, to keep make sure that, Axie kind of maintains its position as the number one NFT game. And yeah, a lot of work on the community side of things, right? Like people making content, making sure that they keep telling their friends and family about this revolution. And yeah, and on the development side, right? We're working on Battles V2. We have land gameplay. So we have a lot of amazing things in the pipeline that should just fan the fire
Yeah, man.
of this movement.
I think that's a really, like, some people perhaps don't really understand that kind of move. It does take time. It takes, and even the most successful companies on earth, like Coca-Cola, whatever, you're still going to see advertising every day for them. And people might say, why do they advertise? Everybody knows about them. In order to maintain that brand position, you can't rest on your laurels, right? And that's what you're saying. And I think that's a really, really important thing to know, also to acknowledge as well, because we've seen copycats, man. We've seen copycats this year, right, Jeff? People. I wouldn't say we've seen straight up copies though, which actually did surprise me slightly. I did imagine seeing a few more, just like Axie Infinity or something like that, you know?
There are some. I mean, we try not to pay too much attention to them, right? And not in some ways they're just right, like to be even copied for people to even try to copy you is a sign of respect. It's a sign
Yes.
that things are going well. But yeah, you can't copy community, right? So I think that's also with, the game is really fun, the community is really fun. This is what makes the play to earn economy work. If you don't have a fun game, if you don't have an amazing community, then right, there's people have no reason to spend money other than to try to make money. And then it's like, if you're gonna do that, why not just you should go somewhere else in crypto, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. No, I completely agree with you. You can't buy a community and you can't fake a community, and it takes time. And that's kind of why I just wanted to reiterate the fact that you've been grinding this for a while. You're not just people I speak to. They're like, "Oh, you heard about this new thing?" I'm like, "It's not new, man. Like it's been around for a long time. These guys have worked hard." So, I mean, one question I have is like the early days of the project. I don't know if you can cast your mind back, but what was the scope then? Like, what were your milestones? Like, do you have any, or was it just like, let's do this? Did you ever imagine it would get to this level?
Sure, I think we all thought that this would be a huge market, and we wanted to be number one in the market. And yeah, obviously sometimes you think that you might have delusions of grandeur, and that I'm sure a lot of people, right, thought that their project could be huge. So I think a lot of things went well along the way. The community, the chemistry within the Sky Mavis team, yeah, a lot of the timing, right? The fact that a lot of us were involved in CryptoKitties and kind of saw these experiments in the early days. So yeah, I think I studied. I'm a student of German war history, so I'm into Clausewitz, right?
Wow.
And Clausewitz says that in war, right, you can maybe plan a little bit for first contact, but then once you're in the battle, you just have to make quick decisions with limited information. And I think that's also been the story of Axie, where we were just trying to build things that delighted our community. We're getting feedback, observing, figuring things out as we went along. And so I think like that's kind of right, that's been really key for us, is just being flexible and having the ability to analyze right where the market is going, what the community wants. And I think that's also been like key, rather than having like, I don't believe in like right planning every single little detail out in advance and then executing it. That's impossible in a new market, because you basically would, if you you would need a crystal ball. So that's not a reliable way to operate.
No, I agree with you definitely, and I think a lot of people do though, right? And it's the answer I expected is a kind of a evolution, organic evolution. You're changing and chopping with market trends and what's happening, and it's another thing that I was I don't have to be careful how I word it, but the COVID pandemic has assisted the play to earn movement. Let's say we've got a lot of people now who find themselves in a position. Two things. One is a lack of work. We'll get into that later because your community is heavily focused around sort of East Asia and places like that. But I mean, is that something you'd agree with, Jeff, or would you just think this was going to happen anyway, or did we just get a little accelerator here?
I think the pandemic has really it was a accelerant in terms of right us needing as a society, as a species,
Yeah.
to figure out like what are the types of work that anyone can do in the future that are going to be accessible from any place in the world. And so yeah, I think the pandemic, right, it really created a need and a narrative around this type of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like, I mean, I'm just grateful that we've been able to have a positive impact on people that were struggling yeah, during some hard times.
I think for me, Jeff, that's the real lynch here for me. I think that's amazing. Like watching, I mean, you guys are on TV, like you're not small time. Like I recently watched a documentary. There's quite a few, and to see those people who are struggling, genuinely struggling in life, and able to pick up a game and earn $60 and pay for their family's food and health requirements. That is phenomenal, man. You should be really proud of that. And I think that's an amazing thing. And I'm not going to bang on about it, but I love that. I think it's great. And it really, like you said, it's created this narrative around your project, which is a really strong narrative too. So it's amazing to see, man. That kind of leads me into, so Axie was growing, 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 but then it kind of, what we observed was an increase in gas prices, right? So gas prices on Ethereum went, let's just say, through the roof as a result of a lot of DeFi activity and NFT activity. So fees were like $50, which kind of rendered Axie a bit of a non-starter for people who weren't willing to do it. So was Ronin always in the plan, or was it kind of just, was it brought out at an accelerated pace to deal with those issues to get it all back on track? Or can you tell us a bit about Ronin and how that kind of came around?
Yeah, so we were early proponents of using sidechains and layer 2 to scale NFT projects. We were interested in a project that failed. It was called Loom Network back in the day, but we were the first.
Yeah,
I think we were one of the first NFT projects, if not the first, to actually
you were.
deploy on a sidechain. We had our land marketplace on Loom Network in starting as early as 2019. So this was literally years ago. So we were experimenting with scalability. We learned a lot from that. We learned that, right, we actually believe that we could build a better solution, and that it's hard, especially in a very immature market, it's very hard to trust some other team, right, as your infrastructure partner, right? And we have amazing engineers on our team, so we thought, hey, like, let's build our own thing. And this could be a solution that the rest of the space needs, because if we need it, then probably everyone else needs it. We just need it ahead of the curve. So yeah, that was the logic. we decided to take a bet on ourselves. We decided to take our destiny into our own hands. We built Ronin, and it's been amazing. It was a huge catalyst. It allowed us to grow from 38,000 to 2.8 million daily active users, and just within the last 6 months. That was really it was kind of like the head of the transformer, that when we added it, it kind of like we had all the pieces needed to kind of go to the next level.
Precisely. And those numbers are crazy, right? And obviously we observed that and we were writing about that, and it was it's one of those VCs. Yeah, we were writing about that and we were observing that. So it was amazing to see. And it's such a catalyst. Like, it's changed the game. And you've mentioned there that other people might need it. Is that a plan for you guys? Like, is that something you think of that other projects out there would gravitate towards Ronin now? Especially games, obviously.
Yeah, we definitely want to be the premier, the premium, the luxury NFT scaling solution for the top NFT games. We want to be very careful with who we bring on. We will see them as, right. We want to be able to pick the winners, just like, right, like. Just like right, Epic Games, or even yeah, basically, whenever you build up a strong community and a massive fan base, you then get to become a distribution channel. So yeah, there's a lot of demand, or there are a lot of different studios that are reaching out to us to deploy on Ronin, but we need to make sure that it's ready to be able to, right, like, transition into a multi-game platform. But that is definitely part of the vision.
Nice, man. That's good information to have. Okay, look forward to seeing. Yeah, I like the idea that you're handpicking. I think you can be like that. That arrogance is going to get you very far, though, right? It's a good way to be. I think it's good. So, just looking at prices, right, Jeff? So, let's say 2 years ago, you could get a couple of Axies for about $10, right? And that's the minimum requirement to get going on Axie Infinity. Forgive me if that's wrong. It's right, isn't it? 3 Axies you need, and that will get you started.
You need 3 Axies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nowadays, that figure's about $1,000. So people are starting to say it's kind of pay to earn, which I'm not chastising. If you want to invest in something, you should have to spend a little bit of money, I think. But what do you say to that? Like, the prices have changed as a result of your success. Is there any way that you can counteract this, or is it going to play out like in some of these, like what Gabby Dizon is doing in these scholarships? Is it going to go in that direction? Like,
yeah, I think there's a two-pronged approach to this issue. The first is to allow people to rent Axies so that they can get started for free without any upfront payment. The second solution is that we are going to release a new upgraded battle system, Battles V2, aka Axie Infinity Origin, and basically there will be 3 free starter Axies, and people will be able to fall in love with the universe, play the game, learn the mechanics before they have to make any economic decisions. Those 3 free Axies, they won't be able to earn tokens, and especially not in the way that we think of right now. But it will be a way for people to, right, get involved, fall down the rabbit hole a bit without having to make any big decisions. Yeah.
Got it. So the system will stay the same, but you introduce them, bring them in, and hope that they enjoy what they see. I think that's really cool. That's kind of the mobile gaming. You see a lot of what they called when you first download a game for the first time. You get the little instructional kind of playable walkthrough kind of thing, and that does a great job of kind of showing you what you might be missing. So that makes a lot of sense to me, man. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's a success issue, right? If you weren't so successful, the prices would be lower. So it is what it is. But I mentioned there as well about Gabby Dizon and these kind of Axie scholarships in the Philippines, because the Philippines has been a bit of a focus for Axie, right? You found that. Tell us a bit about like the kind of demographics coming out of the Philippines and what's kind of driving that over there.
Yeah, so the Philippines is a huge market for us. Around 40% of our users are actually in the Philippines. It's an amazing country. We love the Philippines a lot. There are a lot of reasons that actually blew up in the Philippines a bit before the rest of the world, in my opinion. They're a very loving, family-oriented, and community-driven culture. They're typically early to a lot of social networks like Facebook. They speak English. Many of them speak English. So, Axie is not actually localized for the entire world because we're in alpha. We haven't actually localized. So being able to speak English is actually a huge advantage with Axie right now. And it's kind of unfortunate, but we will localize for the future and make it more accessible. So yeah, there are a lot of reasons. I went to the Philippines and met Gabby in 2018. So I don't think so. I think
Nice.
right, having these local champions and heroes was also super important. But yeah, we're starting to see what happened in the Philippines. It's happening in other countries right now, like Venezuela, like Argentina, like Brazil, like Argentina. Yeah, so we're super excited.
It's really cool, and like just to put a bit. I mean, it's basic. I didn't think of that actually. The English side of it. That's a really good point, and the access to tech as well. That's a really good point. I didn't consider those two things, but they are vital, right? Especially the English side of it. I don't know why I never thought of that. Um, yeah, what they're seeing and what you guys are seeing in the Philippines is that people can generally earn about the same as their monthly income, which is awesome. And that these, can you tell us a bit more about these kind of scholarships? Because I know quite a bit about them, but for the people out there interested in that side of things, like this renting of Axies and even the Axie, there's an Axie University in the Philippines, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, it's so basically in terms of the scholarship is a system where you can borrow 3 Axies to start playing for free. The reason that this is possible is that when you borrow these Axies, you will sign or you will agree to some percentage of the tokens that you earn while playing on the account. These will go to the person that actually owns the Axie, the person or the guild or the clan. So yeah, there are Axie guilds that are kind of taking over the world. Yield Guild is one of them. I think it's worth around $8 billion right now, in at least in terms of fully diluted valuation. So yeah, these Axie guilds are becoming a thing, and I think it's really the future of online communities. And yeah, we're seeing it happening in gaming.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, really, isn't it? And I think what Gabby's doing and what those guys are doing, like you said, they're loaning out their NFTs. They make a percentage as well. Let's not get that mixed up. They're making some money here as well, but the idea is that you can, like, newbies can jump in, which I think is great. Back in July, you had your Genesis land sale, right? And it was a big success. And I think there was a couple of plots that sold for over $650,000. Despite there being that much info about what these kind of land plots were going to do at that time, and that didn't surprise me. You guys have gained your community's trust. So, but can you reveal a little bit more about the future plans for the land plots and the second part of the Axie kind of adventure, as it was?
Sure. So the idea with Axie is that Axie is an entire universe of games. Each team of Axies is a ticket to an entire world of experiences. So Land is an upcoming game mode portal that is under construction. It'll allow you to do things like collect resources, build structures, decorate your land, fight for control of territory, and form alliances. In the future, we also want to make this something like Roblox, where you're able to build experiences on top of your land as well, Axie themed experiences. So this is the idea with land. We actually did our land sale in 2019, so we were one of the original land projects. Yeah, we've only released 25% of the land so far. So it's really it's a work in progress. It's under construction. We're super excited about it. I actually just bought a Genesis land plot for myself, and I announced it to the community just now actually. So people are getting super
Nice.
excited.
Is there a timeline on that you can talk about, Jeff, at all, or should we like Q2 2022, or is it all under wraps for the time being?
Yeah, we're very careful when it comes to timeline because in cryptocurrency, in this space, you're usually building something that's never been built before, so it can be hard to estimate. It's kind of like Tesla. Tesla, they in the early days especially, they used to make a lot of right, they used to say, "Oh, we're gonna release the Model S by this date," right? And they'd have to push back and push back and push
Yeah.
back, and people would get very upset. So we're trying not to make the same mistake.
So bad. Well, it's a pretty good approach, right? Rather than what's the saying, over promising and under delivering. I think that's a smart way to go. One of the other things I keep expecting to see, and like, forgive me if I'm just talking rubbish here, but I keep expecting my son, or to ask me for an Axie doll, or like, it's a path I kind of expect you guys to follow, like the commercial path,
Mm-mm.
Axie, like the Angry Birds kind of path. Like, any plans for that kind of stuff? Should I start pre-ordering, or is it just not even in the agenda? Like,
Yeah, so we have big plans for merch, for toys, for that entire kind of line of products. I think it's really important, and so yeah, I would definitely keep your eyes peeled for announcements related to that.
cool, man. Nice. Yeah, it's just something that was in my mind. I thought it makes logical sense. So yeah, I'll be looking out for those. Just stepping back a little bit at the moment. We're in a sort of metaverse hype phase, let's call it that. Kicked off by Zuckerberg. Love or hate him, he's done us a solid there, I believe, by kind of pushing this into the mainstream. And obviously with the Axie lands that we just discussed here, it feels like Axie's going in that direction too. How do you see the way it's playing out right now, Jeff? Like generally across the board, 2021, NFTs, integration into gaming. It's all very fresh, but what's your kind of take on it, man? Like I've got my take. How do you see this playing out in the sort of immediate 6 months, 12 months?
Yeah, so we are at a very pivotal point in our movement right now. So, we have the attention. More people are coming into the space. It's important that we scale up our ability to educate, to seize the moment, to make sure that people really understand what NFTs are about, what NFT games are about, and what Axie is about. So it's definitely really important. We're investing a lot in terms of right, like bringing in great educators into our community who can make sure that everyone understands that this is a global movement. This is about property rights. This is about something that's way more than a game. But this is also an amazing community, and it's an incredibly fun experience. It's something that has inherent value rather than just being a way to speculate or try to profit. So yeah, it's a monumental task, but I think that the Axie community, the NFT community, we're all up to the task.
I'd agree with you guys. Like it sounds, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of inclined to think that we're in this hype stage at the moment, and it's going to be really, really kind of interesting to see who takes what particular stance on it. I guess we're obviously going to get a big wave of people jumping on board, but then I really hope that the solid projects such as Axie kind of find their way out the other side, and their community carries them. But just speaking about community, like it's a word that comes up every week, and I think it's really interesting in the NFT and sort of crypto community because there's a lot of niceness going on here, Jeff. Like as we said at the beginning, the game is helping people out of poverty. This is a very nice thing to do. And I think that some people are a little bit wary when things are a bit nice. You had any kind of what's the biggest kind of questions you get to do with play to earn mechanic? Do people get it? Do they think it's a trick or a trap? Like what do you hear?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part of that?
Yeah, it's like when people hear about the sort of play to earn mechanics,
Mm.
there's kind of two ways they can go with it, right? It's like, cool, this is a good thing, it sounds beneficial, or there's the kind of what's the word? You're a bit suspicious. Do
Mm,
you
mm, mm.
yeah, like what kind of questions do you get asked
I
about the
think
kind
I
of
think it's totally healthy to be suspicious because if play to earn only works because if it's backed by an amazingly fun game and a really amazing community. So yeah, it's right for people to be a little bit skeptical. I'm very skeptical of all play to earn projects because I don't think that they can work without right like the amazing Axie IP, the amazing Axie gameplay, and the amazing Axie community.
I got it, man. Yeah, like you can, like you said at the beginning, you can set up something, and we do see it. People are jumping on the wagon of play to earn and GameFi for the rewards, basically. But my belief is that we'll see these guys go up and down, and that the really strong players like yourself will show true strength over time. Basically, it's an exciting time for sure, man. Like I think just looking at the numbers to do with NFTs, like record volumes, record figures every week, almost like smashing through numbers. It's been incredible. Do you think it can continue? Do you think that this ride that we're on can continue like this, or do you see some evolution here, like we saw DeFi evolve into GameFi a little bit? Do you think we're going to evolve a bit further? Is there another level here that we're not looking at?
I think that the things that are going to happen are going to be truly unimaginable as this space continues to grow. And yeah, I think that social coordination of DAOs and guilds, I think this is the next stage that will kind of blow people's minds. And yeah, I think it's kind of unimaginable. But yeah, we took a major step forward recently with the release of Katana, our DEX built specifically for Ronin, and I think this was really basically the first. Yeah, this was like I think like the first shot in actually like we're a situation where NFTs will actually basically do what DeFi promised, which is to actually onboard, right? The DeFi builders, they ended up building the code or writing the code, but in terms of onboarding people, it's going to be like people like us and projects like us.
That's kind of also what I thought as well. But you guys need each other. I think there's a thing here where people are saying, oh, DeFi's dead. Forget about DeFi. I don't see that. I see evolution where, like you said, those coders, they sort of provided the foundations for you guys, right? Katana has been, well, amazingly successful, let's say. What you got in TVL? 1.2 billion in TVL already? Not bad. The first project in the DEX. I mean, is there any future plans with that, or is that just gonna, is that just what that is? Or, is there plans to introduce staking, liquidity pairs? Is there like bigger plans for that?
Yeah, we're thinking about like how do we get Ronin DeFi or AxieFi, I'll say, to the next level. So we're thinking about it. I think it's clear that DEX is the biggest kind of potential protocol right off the bat. But then there are things like money markets, so something like similar to maybe Aave, and then I think like lending, borrowing in a trustless way using smart contracts. I think these are potentially low hanging fruit. So.
Makes sense, man. Makes sense. I mean, I'm always interested to know, like, outside of Axie, what are you looking at, like, in the whole NFT space, and what's kind of piquing your interest right now? And we can start with kind of, I don't even know if you're into them, but the kind of NFT avatars and things like that. What are you looking at, Joe?
Me personally, I mean, my days, so I came into the space, right, as a user, as someone who was just looking for the next interesting project. So that I do kind of relate to a lot of the, people who are going around looking for promising projects. That's actually how I found Axie, right? I found it as a community member, and I thought, hey, like, this is a very promising project. I should buy some Axies, and I should try to become a member of whatever organization is building on top of this. So yeah, I definitely relate to that. I'll say these days, I'm not, it's very difficult for me to recommend different NFT projects and such, but I'm definitely, keeping an eye out on different mechanics. I'm a sucker for, I'm really interested in like crafting mechanics and things like that, and anything that kind of gives nice ideas for the Axie economy. But yeah, so
lending inspiration mainly, mate. That's the key here, right? Like lending, as you said rightly at the beginning, when people copy, it's because you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm just always interested because I just think people have got their little favorites out there, sometimes. I'm going to jump onto a question. We got a question from the audience from Zippy1979. How are you doing? Just unmute yourself. Yes.
Hi, everybody. So, Can you hear me clearly, please? Okay, great. I've got two questions. Ian, you can kind of moderate the two. I'll take the first one. I was really interested in your discussion about metaverses, and I kind of see Axie as one of the biggest thought leaders in terms of metaverses. And one of the things I'm seeing in the future is like a metaverse of metaverses and interconnectability and interoperability with all the different metaverses out there. Is that something that's in the roadmap for Axie to allow other metaverses into the Axie world. When you're talking about this Roblox land thing, I think it would be great if I could bring in my my Decentraland avatar into land in Axie and take one of my Axies over, to Polka City, or is there anything like that in the roadmap? And then the second question, so Ian, please note this one. The whole Axie and in the Philippines providing this this kind of monthly salary, kind of seems to me to Axie is contributing towards a global universal basic income. In terms of a basic what's the a universal minimum wage, sorry, not universal basic, universal minimum wage. I guess in countries where the minimum wage may be just a very low amount, by releasing Axie, you're basically contributing towards that. And I was wondering what your thoughts were in terms of Axie's contribution to the macroeconomics of the global environment. So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Zippy, for
great questions.
Thank you, Zippy, for those questions. So the first question was around interoperability and I guess bringing NFTs and items and things from other universes into our ecosystem, and how we're prioritizing stuff like that in the roadmap. So yeah, it's a good question. I'm thinking that this is not necessarily something that you can plan in the roadmap. It does depend on, okay, are there other universes that are getting a lot of traction, that are becoming quite large, that it would make sense for us to do? I see it as kind of co-marketing, right? Like you give their items and their NFTs some utility within your universe, and then it kind of cross promotes and cross pollinates the two communities. I think at the beginning it might be that, hey, we'll there will be use, maybe the currencies can be used in our universe first. I think that's one thing, because okay, tokens, they have some kind of universal value that, right, everyone, there's some standards around it, right? We know the value of ERC20 tokens. ERC721, we can maybe understand the value a little bit. It's a little bit harder, and then it's okay, we have to have standards in terms of how powerful these things are and things like that. So it's a little bit more detailed, or it's a little bit more involved of a process. So I think in the beginning, it will be maybe different projects accepting the currencies, in-game currencies of each other first, before maybe the items. Maybe that's not the the timeline that people are rooting for. That's if I had to put my thinking cap on, that's how I predict it to happen in the early days. And then, yeah, so in terms of our global impact on macroeconomics, I mean, as I said, it's amazing that Axie is helping people, that it's amazing to see Axie providing for families during the pandemic. I think that this is the beginning of a trend where the work and play that we engage in within these digital universes starts to take on a lot of real world importance, right? So I think the metaverse is just a trend where our digital lives are becoming increasingly important relative to our physical lives, and that the actions that we take online can have real socioeconomic consequences for ourselves. So yeah, I think it's been amazing to watch, and yeah, I think we need to make sure that we continue to push the envelope, and that we continue to stay nimble and observe the environment and make quick, good decisions.
I think that's, both the questions are really, really good. And I like the second one specifically about the kind of macroeconomic side of it, and looking at how you guys are actually kind of adding to GDP, let's say. And
I think, yeah, we're starting to see governments get interested, and we want to be allies to legacy governments, where, right, we're coming in and helping create jobs, and then we want to eventually, at least I want to eventually become a recognized country. I want the Axie community to own land and to be recognized by the UN, and you can only do that if the UN recognizes you as a country. And one way to ensure that happens is by, right, making sure that this is something that's adding a lot of value to citizens in many different countries across the world.
Absolutely. I think that's an incredible vision to have, though, right? That's so you want to establish your own. Who was it recently? Barbados announced that they're going to establish their foreign embassy in the metaverse. I believe they said that. So there is a trend moving that way, right? But yeah, it's something that's happening. But that's a big ambition, Jeff. Like that's a big ambition, and I guess we could argue that Axie is transcending a game. It's not a game. It won't be a game at that point, will it? Or will it start to break off into different sections, maybe?
So what would start breaking off into different sections?
As in, you're going to have this money-making part of Axie Infinity. To contribute towards people's money-making ability, they might want to play the game purely for that reason. But are there other strands of Axie that, where people are casually playing? Do you see it evolving like that, where it's not all about the play to earn, and there might be more to
it? Has to be. If it's all about the play to earn, then it's going to be really hard to be successful. So right, Axie is an amazing community. It's an amazingly fun game, first and foremost, and these are really important. And people are spending money for a variety of different reasons within the ecosystem. They're spending for fun. They're spending for status. They're spending for the flex, right? Like to just say that, hey, I have this, right? Like this amount of money means, not as much to you as it means to me. So, right? Like I think that's part of life, right? That's part of why we spend money in the real world too, right? Just to brag to people. So and yeah, it's if you have real communities, you have real relationships, and you will start to have people spend money like they spend money in the real world, and a lot of that is right. It's not about being totally economically rational. It's a lot of it is about trying to attract attention to yourself.
You been to any of those? Like anything like that? And because I basically attended and it was one of my first experiences, but I really felt myself envious of other people's avatars, really like in the real world, man. Like you're in the club, you see some cool trainers, you kind of feel a bit of envy. I didn't expect to have those feelings, but it came so fast.
Yeah, that's why real world events are actually really important.
And I'm not really that kind of guy. So like for it to happen for me, I thought, wow, this is really, really powerful. Like have you stepped into any of these events? Have you been attending anything?
Yeah, we've had a lot of events, and yeah, it's always right. It's like if you have this, like if you have this, like I know that I can trust you. I know that you're someone, you're a person of good character and good taste.
Jeff, have you been to any of these events, the Decentraland Metaverse Festival or anything like that?
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been to many different physical meetups recently, especially recently, and being able to say, hey, I own a Mystic Axie, or I own land, or I have this many scholars, right? It says something about you. It kind of shows that you're a trustworthy person of good character and good taste. So.
I really liked that when you kind of hover over people's avatars and you see what they own and you can kind of summarize them from that. And I felt a bit guilty, I'm like, oh, this guy's got this NFT, that NFT. You draw a picture, don't you? Just like you do in the real world. That's what really shocked me. It was like how organic and surreal it all was, but it all felt very natural. I can definitely see it playing out like a kind of Ready Player One scenario. Like this book just keeps getting discussed every week, basically, at the moment. How do you think? Do you see it going in that direction completely? I mean, I do. It's just a case of how fast. But what do you think?
I think that the path that we take to get to something like that will be a little bit different. Where nobody thought that the metaverse would arise from a cute digital pet game on Android devices, right? They think that it needs VR and all of that, and I'm not sure. I think it's really up to the entrepreneurs and it's up to the users to determine the path that we take to get to the universe. It's not up to science fiction novelists, and it's not up to Hollywood. So.
No, it's a good point because it's guiding things, isn't it? It's kind of in the background. It's a story that people have heard about, and it's not guiding things, but it's like a narrative that seems. And with Winklevoss investing in Somnium and Winklevoss versus Zuckerberg Part 2, and it feels all very Hollywood. It's a bit strange, really. Jeff, just to tap into the team a little bit around Axie, like obviously there's yourself, but How are you guys set up to deliver this? Like, how has the team grown? Like, what's your total number in the team now compared to back in 2018, for example?
Yeah, so we are much larger now than we were in the past. We have around, so it's Sky Mavis. So there's people who work for Sky Mavis and there are people who work for Axie Infinity. Sky Mavis is around 70 people. Axie Infinity is I think around 15. Obviously, some people who work at Sky Mavis also work on Axie. Most people do, but there is a little bit of a distinction. So yeah, we have around 80 people who are, kind of hired to work full time. Obviously, a lot of the work is done by the community. Where right, Sky Mavis is only one of many different entities. There are guilds who are onboarding people into the Axie universe. 80% of our users come from referrals. So yeah, the users, the players, they're acting as store owners, digital pet store owners, and game publishers. And yeah, Sky Mavis, we're doing a lot of the art and the game development, but I would say it's only a part of the battle.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I saw you mentioned the arts side of things there, and I've seen books and things coming out from other platforms where they're kind of, they're writing stories about the metaverse and what's happening there. Have you had any sort of like fan letters like that? Like people really completely engaged in Axie to the point where they're kind of, motivated to write a story about the whole thing and kind of visualize it. Do you get stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot of the people within the Axie community, influencers, creators, right? Sky Mavis team members, many of us have fans who reach out to us, and yeah, it's always really special to know that you've made a difference and that you're someone's role model. So yeah, there are mangas made about us as well from the community. Yeah. So it's endearing. It's really special that. I mean, in the past, like all of us we were just gamers, right? Like people didn't really know much about us. We were kind of more low key. So it's always a transition as well to become more in the public spotlight. So.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know if I'm just thinking, is there any players out there that have been turned into staff members? Is there any players out there? I don't know if you know this really.
Yeah, many. Most of our new hires, they come from the community, to be honest. They're people who play Axie and at night, and then they have their day job, and then we end up hiring them to do what they do at their day job for Sky Mavis or Axie Infinity. So.
Got it. And let's be, just for people listening that perhaps thinking, you know what, I want to jump into Axie. Can you outline, what are the kind of basic level requirements? How much do you have to play in order to kind of earn a certain amount? Like, is it possible to kind of put that on the table at all for newbies?
Yeah, so in order to start playing, you need 3 Axies. YouTube is a great place to, watch tutorials to figure out how to start playing, what Axies you want, how to, get better at the game. So I would say definitely like, yeah, just, searching, Axie Infinity, getting started tutorials and guides. There are many different ones out there. There's also an awesome, we have a welcome portal. I'm going to put it in the chat right now, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So this is a place where people can kind of head to get the first steps and the kind of step-by-step guides and things, right?
Exactly.
Perfect, man. Because I think there's a lot of people out there with a lot of interest in this platform, and there's also a lot of it. I think one of the downsides of the crypto space overall is there's a lot of information, and it can be quite overwhelming, right? Like I've got friends at the moment who are trying to figure out airdrops and other things they need to do. That simplification of the whole process, is that something that you guys are really focusing on? Because the onboarding process is pretty smooth, everything's pretty smooth, but that's the key to this, right? Like getting people on and in and understanding things quickly. And yeah, like is that a big focus for you over the next kind of, let's say, 5 years? That you
definitely, believe it or not, we've made things much easier than they were in 2018 with the launch of Ronin, for example, and all this user education. So yeah, we've made it easier, but yeah, there's still a long way to go. It's still incredibly difficult to get started with Axie, and I find that that's an amazing thing when considering we already have 2.8 million daily active users. So imagine how big this is going to be when we have, right, when it's super easy to get started.
Yeah, well, that's what I keep thinking, that if you've got this many users now, And when it becomes super easy, like a mobile game or whatever, then it will become just ridiculous. And you're the growth lead, so in terms of the marketing and things like that, how was the growth mainly achieved? It feels to me like it was word of mouth, and you guys have not invested heavily in like audience capturing. Is that true?
Yeah. So, I mean, I believe that all marketing, the most effective form of marketing is through the community. Is right. It's community is the most effective distribution channel because it amplifies all other channels, if that makes sense. So we've definitely really invested our blood, sweat, and tears in the community. Investing in community, you can't buy a community. It's not something that can be bought with dollars. It can only be bought with blood and sweat. And like talking to our community, making sure that they understand their vision, making sure that they understand how we're thinking about things, making sure that they feel right, that they understand that they're building this together. So that's I would say we've paid in sweat.
Like all of us, right? But it'll pay off in the end, Jeff. It'll pay off in the end. Well, it has, so keep going. We've got a couple of questions from the audience again. We've got a guy, Eagles.
Hello.
Hello.
I have one question regarding SLP and it's like tokenomics. So as I understand it, like you use Axies to earn SLP through battles, and SLP is consumed through breeding. But I think there's some concerns around if supply of SLP won't outpace the demand for breeding. So I'm wondering if there's future uses in store for SLP in like the kind of with lands and the metaverse kind of.
Sure. Yeah. So it's very important that over time we add more utility for Axies. And right, so there are different ways to solve this issue where basically, right, you can require that people sacrifice Axies in some way, right? Sacrifice Axies to get crafting materials that are then used to upgrade or re-roll body parts. So things like that are really important. Basically, Axie sinks, SLP sinks long term. We also just recently added additional utility for SLP. You can use it to farm Ron tokens through the Katana DEX. So I think we're definitely definitely take that really seriously. And it's really important that people buy Axies, right? That people are buying Axies for fun and for status. Not just only to earn as well. So, for example, I have a lot of friends who they own Axies. They don't play or try to use them to farm SLP. They just love them because they see them as pets. And right when we all hang out in person, right, it's like oh, let me see your Axie collection again. And then right, so you kind of. It's something to impress them with. My dad, I grew up collecting insects and butterflies with my father, so that kind of culture it really makes sense, a lot of sense to me. Where my dad, he spends a lot of money collecting butterflies, going around the country, going to all these different places, but he's not in it to try and make money, right? He's doing it because he has this joy of collection, and so that is really important.
Really important point overall, isn't it? About like you say, the joy of collection. It's not something new. It's been around a long, long time, and the world's evolved to the point where we don't have as much space, perhaps, to keep all the like with your dad. He needs a lot of room to keep all these butterflies, right? So that's become a bit of a premium lately. So storing digital collectibles makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the question, Eagles. That was good. I've got another one from Winter.
Oh, thank you, Ian. First and foremost, I'm really excited and nervous but talking with the actual Jihoz and Jeff, it's really amazing, so thank you for that opportunity. To give a little bit of insight of me, I'm a digital entertainment student from Colombia, and I'm on my last semester. I work on the animation industry, and I'm also a big fan of the crypto space. I started Axie in August with 2 other friends and transitioned into having a scholarship, and I couldn't be happier with all the Axie things. So, and actually participating in the Arctic contest. I know Jihoz knows about it. Wow. I knew about it because of you. Actually, you were on the I think it was a podcast. You were talking about it, and no one paid attention to it. I was like, oh my god, I have to participate. I didn't get anything, but I it was really fun to make. I put the
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I made some bouncing Axies. I put it on the on general chat if you want to check it out. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. This didn't win. This one should be a winner.
Oh my god! Yeah, I was actually.
There's some kind of issue with the voting process.
Oh man, like I was like every day I watched your feed if you would like share it.
I'm sorry, man. You know, like
no.
I try to amplify it, but sometimes things.
No, it's cool. It's cool. It was really fun to make, and it was like a good experience. So, and actually, because I didn't win, I got to get the scholarship I have because I partnered with this guy, who was looking for a scholar who had artistic talent.
Mm.
So yeah, okay. So oh yeah, go ahead, Ian.
No, sorry, that's a really cool story, and it's really great to hear. And yeah. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but my entry, I made it with my girlfriend. Like I made the axes and the animation because I'm an animator, and she did the background. Wow. So we did it together, and we were gonna like if we won something, we were gonna start scholarships or whatever. But yeah, whatever. Sorry, I'm just really excited. Yeah, thank you. So my question actually, it's around this animation or like creation of art part of Axie. So what can we expect from Axie Infinity Metaverse in regard of making our own art and graphic pieces to be part of Lunacia? Because I know about the Lunacia SDK and in the roadmap, but I want to know more about the artistic side of it. Perhaps animation or such to contribute to this wonderful metaverse and content creation in the form of art integrated into Axie Infinity. It's like really something that drives me. Because like that's my main passion. It will be like animation and the creation of art. It will be an amazing thing to combine these two, like Axie and making art. Because like those two make a very important part of my life right now. Here in Colombia, we're a little bit struggling, so that's like an extra income for me and my family. And NFT gaming and digital media are my passion. And I would like to know what do you think about that.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing, man. Sorry, can you repeat the last part of the question?
Oh, the question, it will be what can we expect from Axie Infinity in regard of making our own art or like graphic pieces to be part of Lunacia or like the whole metaverse or yeah.
This is a good question. Like, it's something that we have so many talented artists within our community, and we definitely want to harness that, right? So far we've kind of mainly harnessed that through like social media contests and things like that. Mm-hmm. But we want to do more.
Yeah, definitely. Because like the contest of Arctic was really fun. Like there were some amazing pieces out there, and
I think the first step is actually to do more contests, more official contests with large prize pools, right? So that like we don't have to only rely on community members. So I think that's a good first step, and then I think like eventually, right, having our own NFT marketplace, NFT art marketplace around Axie content.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah, but thank you for having the time to listen to me, and I'm really grateful to you and all your team and everyone, really. So thank you.
Thank you, Winter. Thank you for the question. And
nice to meet you, man. I followed you on Twitter, so you can DM me.
No way, really? For real? Oh my god, I'm gonna brag so much.
I retweeted your thing too. So.
Really? Oh my god, that's amazing. Thank you.
Nice, Winter. That you got. Well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. Thank you, Jihoz.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man.
Guys, we're coming to the end. I've just got one more question. So thank you, Winter. I hope that answered your question, and I'm sure you guys are going to connect outside of this chat. Zippy, you got another question for us, man?
Yes. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. When I heard all the stuff about community, just something was unclear for me, and I'd really like your your help. Axie has one of the strongest communities of any, I mean, crypto gaming, just in that whole space. But for me, it's very hard to understand where the kind of the dividing line between the official things that Axie is doing and what the community-driven initiatives are. As I understand it, the scholarship program, for example, that's community-driven, and it was like a community initiative from the get-go. But can you kind of help us understand where the dividing line is between the things that Axie are doing and the things that the community are doing? Because you guys are so intertwined, it's hard for me to discern what's like official and what's community.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, right, like, difficulty to distinguish the lines, I think that's okay. I think that's actually a feature rather than a bug, right? Because eventually we want Sky Mavis to be just one of many entities that are building on top of the Axie IP and the Axie Universe. Obviously, it's kind of a long road to get there. But yeah, the fact that, right, a lot of this, a lot of what makes Axie is coming directly from the community. I think that's really important. That's really a feature of the system and makes it more resilient. And people understand that they're building, that this is a project that you can have an effect on. You can have an effect on its success, on the community, and how well it's doing. So I think that's right. This is a good thing about Axie, in my opinion. So,
is there a way to perhaps, Zippy, maybe you're thinking about a way to sort of, I'm not sure if this is your thought train, but perhaps there might be people out there pretending to be Axie community members and doing these things. Was that something you were thinking about, like how to differentiate between the real ones and the fakes, or?
Yeah, that's kind of what it is, because I really think it's. I agree with you that it's a really positive thing, because there's so much innovation that's coming out from the community. But I'm always nervous, like especially with crypto, you have like everything's on the blockchain. There's no reversals, so it's hard to kind of, okay, is this legit? Is this not?
Is it something you've heard before, Jeff? Is it a question you've had in the past, or is this perhaps the first time you've come up against that?
Yeah. I think, like, you have to be careful in cryptocurrency, right? Sometimes people will be, but the thing is, right, like anything that's, we will never ask you for, right, like private keys, and there are certain things that we just won't ask you for. So it does require a little bit of discernment, as well, and so yeah, I understand that it can be confusing at times. I think it's a fair thing.
Using your brain and treating it similarly to other, like he says, and I think that's a good point in the crypto world. There's a lot of scamming happening out there, so you do have to be wary, but I think a lot of us are wary, so you just use your head, basically, Zippy, I would say, is the answer, really. All right, thanks for the questions, everybody. That's it for today. We're going to wrap it up. I've got a really important message from me. I know you're probably bored of listening to me by now, but some listeners in the AMA, they may not know about DappRadar. And tomorrow, that won't really matter much, because we're about to unveil our plans for the next episode of DappRadar. So tomorrow at 5 p.m. CET, that's 4 p.m. GMT and 11 a.m. EST. And trust me, that thing breaks my head every time I have to talk about it. We have a monumental announcement to make, and we're doing it live from inside Somnium Space, and we're going to stream that live onto DappRadar at 5 p.m. CET. You don't need to do anything more than just show up on DappRadar. We're going to hijack the website, and all you have to do is watch. So grab some popcorn and get ready for the next episode. If you've got a VR headset and a PC that's actually capable of getting you into Somnium Space, all the requirements are on our website. You can check them out. Join us at 4:30 in Somnium Space, and not only will you hear the announcements, but you're going to be part of it. But trust me, guys, you really don't want to miss this one. It's going to be big. But once again, huge thank you to Jeff. Huge thank you to Axie, all the listeners, Shyla for arranging everything, and my internet connection for staying fairly stable out here where I live in the forest. Jeff, do you want to thank everybody and just wrap up for us, my man?
Thank you so much for everyone who came and attended, especially those of you that asked amazingly insightful questions, like Zippy, like Winta, and thank you, Blomit, for posting your infographic in general. Thank you everybody for just being amazing community members, and please, this is a very important time. and I couldn't be more excited for the future. So yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, DappRadar, for everything that you do, and thanks for having me. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we really appreciate you coming in and kind of breaking it down for us and taking the time. So it's really amazing, and I think we're going to continue our journey side by side here. And yeah, like I said, it's super exciting. So if you've not tried Axie, give it a try. So last thing, next week we've got the guys from Happy DeFi, the security oracle for the most used blockchains such as Ethereum, Solana, and Hiko. They're hoping to add a layer of security and trusted DeFi that's not been achieved before. So until next week, guys, please join us in the metaverse tomorrow or watch us live on DappRadar, 5 p.m. CET. I'll see you in the metaverse.